This is a quick overview of my book on cells. The first half of the book is the student booklet, which has all the information that you'll need. And then the last half is the teacher section that gives you all the patterns and instructions for the activities and games. We start off with the history of how we found out about cells. We meet Leeuwenhoek and others who discovered cells using the very first microscopes. And of course, the discovery of cells parallels our invention of machines to look at them. So when better and better microscopes were invented, we could see more and more of the cell parts. So we eventually got to where we had electron microscopes that let us see in great detail. And I go into the difference between the TEM and the SEM images. One is very three-dimensional, the other is flat. And we discuss how electron microscopes work. And then we get into the cell membrane and the cytoskeleton. The cell membrane is kind of like the skin around the whole thing. So without that, you don't have a cell. That's very important. And you've discovered that there's little protein gadgets stuck. Some of them go all the way through. Some of them stick just to the top or to the underside. And we're going to meet a lot of these little gadgets as we go on. And you learn what these little things are, phospholipids, what the membrane is actually made out of. And then we learn about the cytoskeleton, which is like long threads crisscrossing all through the middle. And this had not really been discovered when I was in school. I think technically it had, but it hadn't made it out to the textbooks yet. So this is something that I've had to learn about as an adult. And you learn about little things called motor proteins that act as taxis that walk along the strands of the cytoskeleton. And I have videos of this, animations that people have made of these little gadgets. And I have them posted on my YouTube list. So there's some really cool videos to watch with this chapter. And of course there's hands-on activities all the way along, but I'll show you at the end. Then we learn about ATP and the mitochondria. And ATP are the little sort of rechargeable batteries that provides the energy for the cell. So we learn about that, and then we see the little assembly line of little machines stuck in the membrane that recharge these little batteries. We learn how that works. Then we learn about proteins, DNA, and RNA. Proteins are basically what most of the things are made out of, all the little working parts are proteins. And of course DNA is the library of information, and RNA is a pattern made from the DNA, basically. And so we learn the history, the discovery of DNA. And we learn about all the codons and the nucleotides. And we learn about the little gadgets that untwist the DNA so it can be copied, and the little sled thing that rides along and makes a copy of it. We learn about transfer RNA, which is important in the production of the proteins. And then we see how the ribosome assembles the little amino acids in the right order to make a protein. We have a whole chapter on lysosomes, the endoplasmic reticulum, and Golgi bodies. Again, there's some great videos that go with these to show you what these processes are talking about. I do my best to draw them, but there's nothing like seeing a really good animation. So we learn what the endoplasmic reticulum does. We see some actual pictures of real Golgi bodies. They look like little stacks of pancakes squished together. And we learn about all the important things that Golgi bodies do. And again, there's all kinds of activities that go with this. Then we learn about the nucleus and how ribosomes are made. We spend quite a while discussing the nucleus and all the little pores. They're very special, these little holes where things can go in and out. We learn how DNA is wrapped around these little histone proteins. And we learn about the chaperone proteins that cover DNA. We learn how the ribosomes are made from RNA. We have a chapter on cell metabolism, which is how the cell uses energy, and a little tiny structure called the peroxisome, which deals with toxins. Saves our life every day, dealing with all kinds of nasty little things. So we learn about how fats can be broken down, cut into little 2-carbon units, and burned. I've drawn a little cartoon here, the Krebs cycle. And there's a little factory worker, little trucks and things. I like to make it into something kind of more concrete, not such an abstract idea. We learned about how sugars get burned for energy. Then we have a chapter on mitosis and meiosis, which are the cell division processes. And I don't hurry through that. We spend quite a while discussing them. We take it nice and slow. And hopefully by the end of the chapter you understand both processes. And then the last chapter is an overview of the different types of cells you'd find in your body. Skin cells, capillary cells, goblet cells, bone cells, muscle cells, nerve cells, and blood cells, both red and white. And I have a couple pages just on the different types of white cells. And along the way, back in the DNA chapter, I'd like to mention there's a few audio. There's a DNA song that you do along the way. Because the song doesn't appear in the activity section here, but it's in there. So you have some activities like making a fluid mosaic model of a cell membrane using marshmallows or something similar floating in water. It's always messy and fun. And you can build a human model, use the kids to make a model. If you don't have a classroom, that's okay, you don't have to do it, but if you do, you can. That's an active activity. You can make a motor protein as a craft project. I give you all the instructions here. There's a relay race you can do, pretending to be a motor protein. You could even do this on your own outside. There's another relay, which is a tabletop relay, and you could do this by yourself inside also. You don't have to do it as a group. You can just do it as a fun activity. I give you the patterns you need here to set up a facsimile of the little machines that are involved in cellular respiration. And so you use dried beans or something like that to represent protons, and then you move them around in the same way that the actual chemistry goes. So that's a way to act out the chemistry. And there's an optional ATP pop gun project and a transfer RNA cookie. It's like gingerbread man with a broken leg. There's another protein. You use little chenille stems to make a little pencil topper for your pencil. And this is an edible DNA model, and there's another relay race coming up. Oh, this is a review game where you make a track that's kind of like a twisty roller coaster that you move a token along, and some review questions. And here's the other relay race about translation and making proteins. There's a Lego game about lysosomes and how they digest all kinds of molecules, break them down. Golgi body cookie project. This is DNA extraction. This is standard experiment. You can find all over the place, but if you need the instructions, they're right there. And then this is the instructions for making a little, what I call a mini mural. You work on it a little bit at a time as you go through the book, and then you end up with a really nice final project that will go in your portfolio. And there's a bingo game about cell parts that has various clues, easy, medium, and hard. And another active game where you set up the Krebs cycle, trying to bring the chemistry to life a bit. Flip book, and a final review Jeopardy style game. And you can buy this as a paperback or digital download. Both are available on my website. The paperback is also on Amazon. So you can decide whether you'd rather have the digital copy and then just read most of it from the screen and then just print out activity pages. Or if you'd like to, you can print the whole thing out. It doesn't matter. or whether you'd rather have it printed. And there's also a student booklet. You can get just the first part. Like if you have multiple students and you want them to each have just the student part, you can buy them each a student booklet.